Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel with today's LeetCode DCC question, bag of tokens. Let's look at the problem statement. You start with an initial power and an initial score of 0 and a bag of tokens given as an integer array tokens where each token I denotes some value of a token. That means initially we will be given an array and we will be given two things, power whose initial value will be p, and a score whose initial value is 0. Now, your goal is to maximize the total score. That means out of this two parameter, we have to maximize this score. By strategically playing these tokens, in one move, you can play an unplayed tokens in one of the two ways. So, these are tokens. So we have to play these tokens strategically. Here means we have two options for every token, and we have to choose optimally whether we have to go with option 1 or option 2. And also they have mentioned an unplayed tokens. That means for every token, we have only one option. Either we can use face up or face down. We cannot repeat that tokens again. Now, how we can use that tokens and how it can help us to maximize the score. Let's see the condition. First says face up. Face up is if your current power is at least token I, you may play token I, losing token I power and gaining one score. That means, suppose if I want to play a token, suppose this token, and the value of this token is Ti. Then face up says if we have a power, this power greater than equal to Ti, in that case, I will lose that power. Now my power will be P minus Ti, but we will increment the score by 1. Another says, face down says, if your current score is at least 1, that means if we have this score value at least 1, you may play a token, gaining token I powers and losing one score. That means in this case, we are losing the power and gaining the score. And in face down, it is saying we will gain token I powers. That means our power will be restored. Our power will be restored by token I value. But we will lose one score. So that's why they have mentioned strategically. Now for every token, we have two options. Either we can choose phase up or phase down. In phase up, we can see our power is getting reduced, but we are increasing our score. But in phase down, our power is getting restored and our score is getting reduced. So till now, return the maximum possible score you can achieve after playing any number of tokens. Remember any number of tokens. Any number of tokens here means it's not necessary we have to use all the tokens. It's not necessary. It may be possible that after using few of the tokens, we get the maximum score. So it says after playing any number of tokens, we have to maximize the score. That means we have to maximize this score. Let's see how we can approach the solution. So first we will see what are the conditions they have given. We have seen that there is one condition where we are losing the token I power for one score. That means if our power is greater than token I, our power will be reduced. Our power will be reduced and we will be incrementing our score. Another condition is token I powers for one score. We will gain token I power. In this case, our power will be restored We are incrementing our power, but our score will be reduced. And third point is it's not necessary to use all the tokens. So suppose we have n tokens, either we can use all the tokens, or we can use few of the tokens, or we can use none of the tokens. Third point says token can be used at most once. That means for any token, if we are using, either we can apply strategy 1 or strategy 2. We cannot apply both, and we cannot repeat that token again. Now, fifth point says initially we have some power. Initial power is P. That means initially they have given me some power. I will not begin with 0. And our goal is to maximize the score. We are not worried about power, whether power is less or more at the end. We are focused on maximizing the scores. At the end, we should apply the strategy such that our scores are maximized. And initially, our score is 0. So these are the points we have to remember. Now, there are few observations if you see. No matter token value is low or high, it yields only one score. So when we are getting one score, so when we lose token I power for one score, that means if suppose token I value is 4 or 10, in both the case, in this case, our power will be reduced by 4, and in this, our power will be reduced by 10. But no matter what, we will only be able to increment our score by 1. That is 1 point. And regardless of power gain, spending requires only one score. That means if we are using strategy 2 to gain the powers, in that case, suppose we have a token value of 4 and we have a token value of 100. In both the case, if we are willing to spend one score, in either of the case, either we can choose 4 or 100. It doesn't matter. We will only need to spend one token for both the scenarios. So if we choose 100, our power will be restored by 100. And if we choose 4, our power will be restored by 4. But we can see in this case, we are restoring more powers. And in both the case, we are only spending one score. That's 2 point. Now, there can be a scenario that we gain maximum score without using all the tokens. Since they have mentioned it's not necessary that we use all the tokens, that means there can be a scenario that we gain maximum scores without using all the tokens. Now, if I ask you a few questions, question 1 says, if we are gaining only one score for every token, then should we spend less or more power? That means, suppose we are given these tokens 2, 3, 4, 8, and initially we have power 9. Now, I am willing to spend the power. Suppose I am willing to spend some power. Okay. Now we have so many options. Either we can spend power 2, power 3, power 4, power 8. And in return, I will be able to increase my score by 1. So at every time to gain the score, we have to spend some power. So should we spend the high power or less power? Let's suppose if I spend 8 powers, in that case, I will be left with only 1 power, but I will be able to increase my score by 1. Now, suppose if I spend 2, in that case also, I will be left with 7 power, and in that case also, I will be able to increment my score plus 1. So we can see if we are utilizing the high value of a token, we are left with less power. And maybe in future, we need more power, but we are not left with so many power. So we can see in this case, now we are left with 1. So now the next possible token we can use is none. That means if we use high power, there is a chances that we fail to maximize the score. But if we use small tokens, that means definitely we are left with high powers respect to other case. And in that case, suppose we are left with 7. Now I will ask, what is the next option? Suppose we have used 2. Now I will ask, if I again want to spend some powers, do we have any options? Yes, we have. We can see we can use 3, 4 as well. Now suppose if I use 3, now we can see again we are left with some power. Again we have an option. That means if we consume smaller token first, then there is high probability that we will gain more scores. So in this case also we can see we have initially we have consumed the high power and we are end up with incrementing our score by only 1. But see, when we use the smallest token first, 2, then 3, we are ending up gaining a score 3. That means from this question, it is clear that we always tries to spend the smallest token first. Now let's see next question. So next question says, if we are short of a power, then should we prefer to gain more or less powers? Now see, suppose we have this example 2, 3, 4, 8. Now we have already said that when we are spending the power, we will only using we will first use the smallest token first. So in this case, since our power is 3 and the smallest token is 2 and it is less than my current power, that means we can utilize this power, and now I will be left with power 1 and I will be able to increment our score. Correct. Now see, now using power 1, will I be able to use any of the tokens? No, right? Since the values of the tokens left are 3, 4, and 8, and all are greater than my current power. Now, since we are short of a power, now I want to exchange my score with power. Now I want to restore my power so that I can again increment my score. So in that case, we will see. Now we have a score greater than 0. That means I can exchange. Now, if I want to exchange, we have 3 options. Either we can restore power 3, power 4, or power 8. Now we have 3 options, right? 3, 4, and 8. Since in all the cases, I am reducing my score by 1, right? If we are reducing my score by 1 in all the cases, so it's better to use the highest value of a token, because if we restore more powers, then there is a possibility that I will be incrementing my score more by spending the powers. Suppose in this case, if we have a power left is 1, if I want to restore my power by 3, suppose my power is now 4, right? And I have reduced my score by 1. In this case, now suppose we have used these tokens. Now what we are left with 4 and 8. So if I want to maximize the score, then only I will be able to use this token 4. And after using this token, I will be able to again increment my score by 1. That means at the end I will be 1. So this is one scenario. Now suppose in exchange of one score, if I want to restore the power 8, so initially I am left with 1. 1 plus 8 is 9. That means now after spending one score, now I have 9 powers. And we can see if I use 8, now we are left with 3 and 4. So we can see if I exchange with spend 3 powers, still I am left with 6 and I am incrementing my score by 1. Now again I am in a position to use another token, that is 4, and now again I am able to increment my score. That means whenever I am trying to restore my power, it's better. It's better because in everywhere, in all the cases, I am reducing my score by 1. It's better we use the maximum value of a token. Because if we restore more powers, then by taking the different another strategy, I will be able to end up scoring more. That means from question 1 and question 2, that is one two things is clear, that whenever we are spending powers, we will use smaller token to spend, and we will be able to increment our score. But whenever we are restoring the powers, spending our score, we should use the maximum value of a token. Now let's see question 3. If above scenario arises, that means if we are short of a power and we are not in a position to use any of the tokens in order to increase our score, then either we can stop there or gain some powers and continue. So if you remember all the points from the question, there one point was mentioned like it's not necessary we use all the tokens. That means we can use few of the tokens. Now let's look at question 3. If above scenario arises, then either we can stop there or gain some powers and continue. That means if if we are not in a position to use any of the tokens in order to increment our scores, then in that case we have two options. Either we can stop then and there and we say, yeah, this is the maximum score I can achieve, or we can spend one score and we can regain our power, we can restore our power, and maybe in future using further tokens we can maximize our score. That means we have two options. So let's see whether we should prefer to stop then and there or we should gain some powers and continue further. Let's see let's see case 1. If we have this example and we decided to stop then and there once we are not able to use any of the tokens, let's see what happens here. Suppose now my power is 5. So from the question 1, we are clear that we have to use the smallest token first. So 5 minus 2 is 3. Now we are able to increment our score by 1, and we have utilized this token 2. Now we can't use this token again. Now we have 3. So 3 minus 3, the next smallest was 3. So 3 minus 3 is 0. Now again we are able to increment our score to 2. Now since we are not left with any of the powers, so we cannot proceed further unless we restore our power. Now suppose we decided that we will stop here only. Maximum score I can achieve is 2. But let's see what happens if we restore some powers. Now suppose I decided to invest one score. Now suppose I reduced my score to 1 and I regain the power. So from question 2, it was clear that whenever we are regaining our power, we should use the maximum token. So let's see, we use this token 8. Now my power is 8. 0 plus 8 is 8. Since my power is 8, and now I want to apply strategy 1 to again increment our score. So the next smallest token is 3. So 8 minus 3 is 5, and my score value will be 2 now. Now we have used token 3. Now still I have left with power 5. So are we able to use any other token? Yes, we have one more token, 4. So we will utilize that token and we will increment our score again. So now my score is 3. So you can see when we decided to stop then and there, my score was only 2. But in the future, we can see if we invest some power, score and regain our power, there is a possibility that we end up scoring more. So we can see in this case, my score is 3. That means it is not necessary that we should stop. So is it like that we should never stop? Let's see case 2. In this case, If we are stuck, that means we are not in a position to use any of the tokens. We will continue further and regain some power. Let's see in that case what happens. Suppose now we have a power 5. So we will use the minimum value of a token, that is 2. So 5 minus 2, now we are left with 3, and our score value will be incremented by 1. Now again, I am in a position to use the tokens. So I will use this token again. Now suppose 3 minus 3 is 0. Again, I will increment my score to 2. Now I am not in a position to use any of the tokens since my power is less than any of the value of the token, that is 4. Now suppose I want to invest the score and regain my power. So now I will invest my score. So I will decrement my score by 1 and increment my power by maximum value of the token which are left, that is 4. I will regain my power to 4. So now we can see, since we are left with more power, we are left with 4 powers, but we are not left with any of the tokens. That means, and our score is 0. Our score is 1 at the end. But if we have not consumed this token and we have not incremented the power, in that case, our score would have been 2. That means from this both cases, we can understand that it's not necessary that we stopped. Either it is not necessary that we gain power and continue. So we have to decide at a particular stage whether we need to stop or when we want to gain power and continue. So, so there are a few conclusions. So from question 1, it is clear that we always want to lose low power to gain score. And if we are short of power, we should gain high power for one score if we are willing to spend the score. Now, in this, since we have two options, either we can stop then and there and we can continue further. So, suppose if I am stopping here, so at this point, can we say if I would have not used the further tokens, the maximum score I would have achieved is 2? That means I don't know in the future what will be the value and whether I will be end up scoring more than now or I will be end up scoring less than now. So can we say that we will keep dating my final answer with the maximum score which we have achieved so far? So in this case, if I would have stored this value to somewhere saying that maximum, I am sure that I will be able to score 2. In future, I don't know. Maximum, I know I will be able to score 2. So in this case, and if in the future I see that I end up losing one score, that means at the end my score value is less than what it was previous. So at the end, we will not update this final value. We can say that during this journey, the maximum score I achieved was 2 without using token 4. So there are three things. Whenever we want to gain score, we will use the minimum number of tokens. And whenever we want to gain power, we will use the highest value of a token for one score. And we will keep updating the answer with the maximum score we have gained so far. Now, that means in one case, we want minimum tokens, right? Minimum. And in other case, we want maximum. So suppose we have given an array of tokens, and I want to say that I want to lose some power and I want to gain an score. So should we traverse the whole array and find out which one is minimum? We can do so. And when we are willing to lose one score and gain the power, again we have to traverse the array and find out which tokens have the highest value, unused tokens. So in that case, for every instance, every time we are traversing the whole array, that means we are taking big O of n time. Every time we are taking big O of n time. So is there any possibility that at once we can find out the smallest unused token and the highest unused token? Yes, yes, we can sort the array. We can sort the value of a token. In that way, initially from the start, we can find out the smallest unused token, and from the end, we can find out the highest value of a unused token. Suppose suppose we have not used any of the tokens now, and I want to spend some powers to gain score. So the smallest value I can find out is the first one. Now suppose I have used this one. Now the next smallest will always obviously will be the next one. So we will move my pointer to next one, which will indicate the next smallest. Now suppose we are not in a position to use these tokens. We don't have sufficient power. Now I want to regain the power. So in that case, I know the maximum value of a token is at the end of the array. So this value is the maximum. We don't need to traverse the array and find out the maximum. Once we sorted the array, we know the maximum value is at the end. So once we used this token, we know the next maximum value is the second one, last one. So we will keep two pointers one at the beginning, one at the end. This The beginning pointer will indicate the smallest unused token, and the end pointer will indicate the highest unused tokens. So let's see one example and see. In this token, so token givens are 300, 200, 400, 100. So we can see this is not sorted, unsorted, right? This is not sorted. And initially we are given the power 200 and my score is 0. So now I want to spend this power. So we have to traverse this token array to find out which token is the smallest. So one by one, I will go and at the end we find out that, oh, smallest token is 100. Now I will spend 200 minus 100 and I will increment my score, right? Now we are left with 100. Again, I will traverse the array and find out whether I have any of the unused token which are less than 100. So again, we have to traverse the array. Now we will see, no, we don't have. So at every time, do we need to, in that case, if we have unsorted array, we need to traverse the whole array one by one for everything. So now let's see how we can optimize after sorting. Now let's see we are sorting the token value. So let's sort this array. So now it's 100, now 200, 300, and 400. So after sorting, now this is sorted. So after sorting, it is clear the smallest value will be at the beginning and the highest value of the token will obviously be at the end. So we will mark these two pointers. Let's suppose this pointer is I and this pointer is j. So we will initialize our ith pointer with index 0 and jth pointer with index 3. Now suppose we have a power 200. I want to spend some power. So I will go and ask the smallest pointer. Smallest pointer, what is the value of the token? So he will go and see at index 0, the value is 100. So that is less than the power. So I will spend that power. Now my power will be left with 100 and I will increment my score. So once I will increment my score, I will compare it with the maximum score I have achieved so far. Is it greater than the maximum score? Yes. So I will update my maximum score also. Now I will increment my beginning pointer, ith pointer by 1 because we have already used this token. Now my second smallest will point to 1, right? Now I have value 100. I have again want to spend some power. So I will again go to I and I ask what is the value at the ith position, that is first position. So he will say that the value is 200. So, but I will see that my power is less than the value of the token. That means I can't I can't use that token. So there is another option. What now I want to restore the power. So since I want to restore the power, so it was clear that we always want to restore the power with the maximum value of the unused token. So from where I can get. So that will help that one that will help by jth pointer. Jth pointer will say that I am the maximum value in the array which are unused. So I will go with the jth pointer and I will ask what is the value at the third position. He will say 400. So I will regain my power with 400. So now my power will be 500, right? And I will decrement my score. Again, I will check. Is my current score greater than the maximum score? No, it is not. So I will not update my maximum score. Now my power is 500. And since I have used this token, I will decrement my pointer by 1. So now I will decrement my pointer to 2. So 2 will indicate the next highest value which is unused. Now I am at 1. Now since I have a power, I will again ask the ith pointer, what is the value at that position? Again he will say 200. So do I have that much power? Yes. Now I have. So I will reduce my power by 200. That is, now I will be left with 300 and I will again increment my current score. Now again I will ask maximum score. So is it greater than the maximum score? No, it is not. I already have assigned maximum score with 1. That means I have already seen that maximum score I can achieve till now is 1. Okay, fine. Now I will increment my ith pointer to 2 since I have already used 200. Now my ith pointer is pointing to 2. Again I will ask what is the value at 2th position to the smallest pointer because I have some power and I want to spend it. Again, he will say that the value at that position is 300. Do I have that sufficient power? Yes, I have. Again, I will use that power. Now I am left with power 0 and I will increment my current score. Now, again, I will ask with maximum score. Is your value greater than 2? Maximum score will say no. I have only one value. So I will update this maximum score with 2. So now I will update my ith pointer to 3. So since we have used 3, now ith pointer will point to 3. Now we can see that the value of I has crossed j. Now I is greater than j. That means we have used all the tokens. Now we are not left with any of the unused tokens. So maximum value which I can achieve is not current score. It's the maximum score field. It will indicate the maximum score I can achieve. So we will return this maximum score, that is 2. Now let's see how we can code it. First, I will try to find the size of the token array. Now, since the power is variable is given, I will assign my current score. Current score is 0 and maximum score is 0. Now I will have two pointer I equal to 0 and j will indicate to last index of the pointer. Now I will sort the tokens. Tokens dot begin. So after sorting, I will iterate until I am not left with any of the unused token. So while I is less than 0. Now I will see whether I have sufficient powers or not. If token of I is less than equal to power, that means if I have sufficient power, then I will reduce my power by token I. And my score will be incremented. That means my current score will increment. Else, I will ask if I have any of the score value. To regain the power, I must have a score greater than equal to 1. If I have a score value, then in that case, I will regain the power by tokens of with the highest value of the unused token, that is pointer j. Now in this case, since we have used this token, I will increment the ith pointer. And in this case, since I've used the tokens, I will decrement the pointer and decrement the score as well. So once we have used this operation, I will check whether my maximum score is greater than the current score or not. If my maximum score is greater than current score, I will initialize it with maximum current score. So once we are done, if both is not possible, if suppose we are not in a position to use any of the tokens to increment my score, neither I'm in a position to regain the power, in that case, I will simply break. Right? We don't have any options. So now I will return maximum score. Let's try to run the test cases. So we can see our test cases has been accepted. Now let's try to submit the solution. So our solution is accepted. So I hope the problem statement as well as the solution is clear. If you have any questions, mention in the comments below. See you in the next video. Thank you.